Across 47 known species, pulling a knife is not symbolic. It means someone is about to die. So when the human girl just smiled and politely asked why everyone suddenly looked so tense, it should have been my first warning. Nobody ever tells you this when you enroll in an interspecies academy. There are no normal days. Not really. Every single day, someone does something dumb. Someone breaks a rule they never knew existed. And someone, always someone, ends up in the medical wing because they ate, touched, or inhaled something that turned out to be toxic to their biology. That's just how it goes. Standard stuff, right? Wrong. My name is Zinvok. I'm Calarian. 4 arms, decent eyesight, and, according to my roommate, a terrible sense of humor. And I was absolutely not ready for what happened during advanced quantum mathematics that day. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Context matters. You need to understand just how painfully, almost offensively normal everything was before it all collapsed. The classroom on Station Harmony looked like every other classroom on the station. Sterile gray walls, rows of desks designed to adjust for at least 15 different body plans. And that smell, every shared space has it, the result of too many species breathing through the same ventilation system. Professor Varanth, a Vaxian with 6 tentacles and far more patience than common sense, was droning on about probability matrices. I'll be honest, I wasn't listening. No one was. It was 4th period on a station standard Tuesday. We were all just trying to stay conscious until lunch. To my left sat Koran, a Thorian whose carapace kept clicking against his chair every time he shifted. It was irritating, but complaining would have taken more energy than it was worth. Behind me, Lyria hummed softly. She was a sentient species that hummed when nervous, which meant she hummed constantly. It never stopped. Ever. 3 rows ahead, Drexus and his little group of Drexian friends were passing notes and pretending they weren't. Typical classroom nonsense. Boring, safe, predictable. And then there was Maya Sinclair. Human. She was sitting 2 desks to my right, slouched low like she was slowly sinking into her chair. Her hair was tied up in what humans call a ponytail, and she was completely focused on doodling across the margins of her datapad instead of taking notes. The drawings were actually impressive. Small ships, stars, and some kind of earth creature with way too many teeth. Creative, weird, harmless. That was my assessment of Maya Sinclair. Harmless. And I could not have been more catastrophically wrong. You see, humans had only joined the galactic community about 8 cycles ago. Still new. Still learning how not to terrify everyone. Most species treated them carefully because Earth had a reputation. Deathworld. Category 12. The kind of planet where everything wants you dead, and somehow the dominant species not only survived, but flourished. Still, Riley never seemed dangerous. She was quiet, mostly kept to herself. Smiled a lot, which was unsettling at first because humans show their teeth when they're happy. You get used to it. She never caused trouble, never picked fights, never did anything that made anyone nervous. She just existed. Background noise. Another part of the classroom ecosystem. Professor Varanth waved 2 of his 6 tentacles at the hollow display, explaining something about wave function collapse that I absolutely should have been writing down and absolutely was not. Corin's shell clicked again. Krillinith hummed. Someone in the back coughed, which turned into a strange whistling sound because their lungs weren't built for this atmosphere. Normal. Boring. Safe. I remember glancing at Riley right before it happened. She was smiling down at her datapad. Not the toothy smile, just that small human expression that meant she was content. Calm. Relaxed. Her posture had 0 tension. No alertness, no concern. Just another student waiting for the class to end so she could go do whatever humans do during lunch. Probably eat something that would kill half the station. Everything was fine. Everything was completely, utterly fine. And then Kraylin stood up. Kraylin was a Kraylix, big species, Heavy worlders. Not quite Deathworld level, but close enough that they liked to pretend they were. All scales, muscle, and attitude. He sat in the back corner every class, always brooding, always looking like someone had insulted him just by breathing nearby. Most of us avoided him. That was the smart move. Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact. Make it through the semester alive. Apparently, survival wasn't on today's schedule. The scrape of Kralen's chair against the floor sliced through Professor Varenth's lecture like a blade through flesh. The entire room locked up. You do not stand up in the middle of class on a multi-species station. You raise a limb. You signal. You follow protocol. Standing without permission isn't rude. It's aggression. It's a message. Kralen wasn't sending a message. He was making a declaration. His thick, clawed hand reached into his vest. Both of my hearts started pounding. Please be a datapad. Please be a communicator. Please be anything except what I already knew it was. It wasn't a datapad. The blade slid free, smooth and practiced, ceremonial, curved. The blade gleamed under the lights. It was about the length of my forearm, etched with symbols I didn't need to translate to understand exactly what it was. A combat blade. Traditional. The kind you only draw when you fully intend to spill blood. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Professor Varenth's tentacles snapped stiff. His lecture died mid-word, replaced by that choking, rasping sound Vaxians make when fear hits them hard. Real fear. Morvra's carapace clicking exploded into chaos, a rapid-fire clatter of pure panic. Morvra's steady humming shot up into a shrill whine that stabbed straight into my ear slits. And everyone else? They ran. Not figuratively, literally. Desks shrieked across the floor, chairs tipped and crashed. A Caprolian near the door didn't even hesitate, just bolted straight into the hallway without a backward glance. 2 Drexians tried to squeeze through the exit at the same time and got stuck, jammed together for 3 agonizing seconds before popping free like a cork shooting out of a bottle. I wanted to run. Every survival instinct I had was screaming at me to move, but my legs refused, locked, frozen, completely useless. Here's the part you need to understand. Drawing a blade in public isn't just rude, it isn't just illegal. In 47 known species cultures, it's a death challenge. A formal, binding, no-takebacks declaration that someone is going to die. You draw the blade, you use the blade. That's the rule. That's the law. That's how wars begin. Kralen held the knife aloft, letting the light slide along its edge. His cold, reptilian eyes swept the room, searching, hunting. My mind was screaming while my body betrayed me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the simple equation pounding in my skull. Blade equals death, equals run, equals why won't my legs work? And then, by the void, Kralen's gaze locked onto Riley. No, 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 no. Not the human. Anyone but the human. Humans were new. Humans were protected. Humans were supposed to be kept safe because if a human died on this station, Earth's government would lose their collective minds and possibly start a war. And none of us wanted that kind of incident following us for the rest of our academic records. But Kralen raised the blade and pointed it straight at her. A universal gesture. Challenge. Threat. Intent to kill. I wanted to scream. I wanted to warn her. I wanted to do something. Anything. Riley looked up from her datapad. She blinked once, then again. She glanced at the knife, then at Kralen, then back at the knife, and she smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a frightened one, not even a worried one. It was the kind of smile you give when you notice something mildly interesting, like someone made a joke that wasn't funny enough to laugh at, but deserved acknowledgement. She smiled at a death challenge like it was a minor inconvenience. What? The actual void. Kralen's chest expanded, scales rippling with what I can only describe as smug satisfaction. He thought he had her. He thought the human was too stupid to understand what was happening. He lifted the blade higher, angling it so it caught the light, making sure everyone who hadn't already fled could see it, making sure Riley could see it. "Human," he hissed, his voice sliding into that low, dangerous tone predators use right before they strike. "You have disrespected me for the last time. Your presence insults my lineage. Your weakness disgusts my ancestors." He gestured with the blade, precise and ceremonial, a movement that sealed the challenge across at least 30 different legal systems. "I challenge you here and now before witnesses. Face me or be marked a coward for all time. Let your family name carry that shame across the stars." Was it dramatic? Absolutely. Was it terrifying? Also absolutely. Because Kraylin wasn't posturing. This was real. This was a genuine, legally binding death challenge happening in the middle of fourth period math. Professor Varanth had backed himself against the wall, tentacles drawn tight, doing his best impression of something invisible. The few students who hadn't escaped were pressed into corners, shaking. I was still frozen at my desk, all four hands gripping the edges so hard I thought I might snap something, possibly my own fingers. And Riley? Riley calmly set down her stylus, slowly, deliberately, like she had all the time in the universe. "Disrespected you?" she asked, her voice so relaxed it made my skin crawl. "When?" Kraylin's eyes narrowed. "You mock me with your question." "No, seriously." Riley leaned back in her chair, still seated, still relaxed. "I have literally never spoken to you, not once. I don't even know your name, dude." Dude, she called him dude. He was holding a knife. He had issued a death challenge. Dude. "You sit in my presence as if I do not exist," Kraylin snarled. "You ignore my status. You dismiss my heritage. This insult demands blood." Riley's eyebrows lifted just slightly. "So let me get this straight," she said. "You're mad because I didn't pay attention to you." She paused. "That is the dumbest reason to stab someone I've heard all week. And trust me, I've heard some dumb reasons." My brain broke. Just stopped. She was sassing him. The human was sassing an armed Kralix in the middle of a formal death challenge. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. This violated every survival instinct ever recorded in sentient history. Kraylin's scales darkened, flushing deep with rage, pure, unfiltered, anger. "You will show respect, or you will die." "Uh-huh." Riley stood up. Just stood up. No tension, no rush. Like she was stretching her legs, not facing someone who had just threatened to kill her. And then she asked, casually, like she was making small talk. "Quick question, though. That knife, am I supposed to be scared of it?" "It is a ceremonial blade of the Krallic warrior caste," Kraylin began, puffing up. "Forged in the fires of—" "Cool story," Riley cut in. And then she started walking toward him. Actually walking. Toward the knife. Toward the thing that was supposed to end her life. Here's the part that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it. Nobody could breathe. I couldn't breathe. No one else could either. Even Lyria's humming stopped, which I had not believed was physically possible. Riley was moving closer to certain death. Humans were supposed to be intelligent. This was not intelligence. This was suicide. This was madness. Kraylin stayed where he was, blade raised, clearly not expecting her to approach. His stance shifted. He adjusted his grip, preparing to strike. "So you accept the challenge, human?" he snarled. "You choose death over dishonor." "Oh, I'm not accepting anything," Riley said, still walking, still smiling. "I just think we should clear something up before you embarrass yourself." "I will not." "That's a knife," Riley continued, stopping about 2 meters away from him, well inside striking range. "On my planet, we give knives to kids, actual kids, 8-year-olds. We let them cut their own food. We use knives to open boxes. To us, knives are kitchen tools." Kraylin's blade dipped, just slightly. "You lie." "Nope." Riley's smile widened, teeth and all. "I've had a knife in my backpack since day one. Want to see it? It's got a bottle opener on it. Super useful." The room went dead silent. Even the ventilation system seemed to hold its breath. This was not how death challenges worked. This was not how anything worked. You either fought, or you ran, or you died. You did not explain your species' cutlery customs. "You mock me," Kralin said, but the confidence in his voice was cracking now. "Yeah, a little," Riley admitted. "But here's the thing you probably should have looked up before pulling this stunt." She took another step closer. Kralin stepped back. He actually stepped back. "I'm from Earth," she said. "Category 12, Deathworld. I grew up around animals that could eat you in 3 bites. I've been chased by predators you couldn't pronounce. I've survived cold that freezes blood solid and heat that boils it." "And you think a knife is scary?" Her eyes locked onto his. Human eyes. And I swear by the void. I saw Kralin flinch. "So here's what's going to happen," Riley said quietly. "You're going to put the knife away. You're going to sit down, and we're all going to pretend this never happened. Sound good?" Kralin's grip tightened. "I have issued the challenge. I cannot withdraw." "Sure you can," Riley said. "Watch." And then she moved. I blinked. That's it. 1 blink, maybe half a second. When my eyes opened again, the universe had rearranged itself. Riley had the knife. Not Kralin. Riley. She was holding the ceremonial blade like a ruler, turning it in her hand with mild curiosity. Kralin was on the floor, face down, one arm twisted behind his back at an angle that looked extremely painful and possibly, but not quite, broken. Probably. His other arm was stretched forward, palm flat against the floor in a textbook submission posture. 3 seconds, maybe less. I didn't see her move. None of us did. One moment she was talking. The next, she had disarmed a trained Kralik warrior and pinned him like a badly behaved pet. "Huh," Riley said, inspecting the blade. "This is actually pretty nice." "Good balance. A little heavy for my taste, but the edge is sharp. You take care of your gear. Props for that." Kralin made a sound somewhere between a groan and a whimper. His scales had gone pale, which I didn't even know Kralik scales could do. "Oh, sorry," Riley said, sounding not sorry at all. "Is your arm uncomfortable?" "My bad." She shifted her foot slightly. Kralin gasped. "Better? No? How about now?" Another tiny adjustment. "There we go. See? Communication matters." "You should have tried that before the whole knife thing." My brain was desperately trying to process what I'd just witnessed and failing completely. Humans weren't supposed to fight like that. They were tough, sure, resilient, hard to kill, but not fast, not trained, not capable of taking down a Kralik warrior faster than a blink. That wasn't in the human briefings. That wasn't in the species packets. That wasn't possible. "So," Riley said, still holding the knife, still standing over Kralin like this was perfectly normal. "We learned something today. Anyone want to guess what it was?" Silence. No one could answer. No one was even capable of trying. We were all still rebooting our higher brain functions. "No guesses?" she said. "Okay, I'll tell you." She crouched down until she was eye level with Kralin. "The lesson is this. Don't threaten people with knives unless you're 100% sure they don't know 17 different ways to take it away from you," she smiled. "Because, spoiler alert, I know way more than 17. "How?" Kralin managed to wheeze. "How did you do that?" Kralin wheezed. "Practice," Riley said, like the answer was obvious. "Lots and lots of practice." She shrugged. "Earth isn't a nice place, remember? You learn this stuff young if you want to stay alive. Where I'm from, self-defense classes start around age 6. By 12, most kids can handle themselves in a fight. By 16, she paused, thinking. Yeah, by 16, we're basically walking weapons. She said it like she was talking about learning to ride a bike. It's just how we survive, she added. Well, That, and we invented pepper spray, tasers, and guns. She smiled faintly. But those aren't allowed on the station, so we make do with hand-to-hand. Then she stood up, still holding the knife, and scanned the room. Her gaze landed on Professor Varenth, who was still plastered against the wall like gravity had doubled. "Sorry about the disruption, Professor," she said politely. "I'll take this to security. We can get back to probability matrices after." She tapped her datapad. Which, by the way, I was paying attention to. The doodling helps me focus. The... Professor Varenth stammered, his translator lagging hard. Apparently even advanced tech needed a moment after witnessing whatever that was. "Cool, thanks," Riley said. She stepped over Kraylin, who was still face down on the floor, and headed for the door. That's when security stormed in. 3 officers, full tactical gear, stun batons out, eyes scanning for a threat. They found Riley standing there, holding a knife, over a prone Krallic warrior, surrounded by traumatized students. "Oh, hey," Riley said cheerfully. "Perfect timing." She pointed at Kraylin with the knife like she was indicating a spill on the floor. "This guy issued a death challenge. I declined. He insisted. I took his knife. Here you go." She flipped the blade around and offered the handle to the nearest officer. "You'll probably want to log this as attempted assault, maybe reckless endangerment, disrupting a class, whatever fits." The officer accepted the knife like it might explode. His eyes bounced between the blade, Riley, Kraylin, and the rest of us, desperately trying to reconstruct reality. "She's telling the truth," I heard myself say. I was shocked my voice worked. He challenged her. She defended herself. "Defended," the officer repeated slowly. "Yep," Riley said. "Also, can someone help him up? I think his pride took more damage than his body, but you should check anyway." I was gentle, she added. "Mostly." She called that gentle. I did not want to know what rough looked like. The security team moved in. 2 helped Kraylin to his feet, while the 3rd kept staring at Riley like she might suddenly grow extra limbs, which, honestly, didn't seem impossible anymore. Kraylin muttered something in his native language, but his translator had either shut down or given up. Probably given up. I would have. "Everyone remain calm," the lead officer said. Which was funny, because Calm had left the building about 5 minutes earlier and was not coming back. "We'll need witness statements." "Can we do that after class?" Riley asked, checking her datapad. "We've got like 20 minutes left, and I really need to understand this probability stuff for the exam next week." She wanted to finish class. After disarming someone. After flooring a Krallic warrior. After proving humans could move faster than my eyes could track. She wanted to finish math. Professor Varenth made a noise like a deflating air bladder. Yes, class, right, math." His tentacles were still shaking, but credit where it's due, he was trying. "Everyone, please, return to your seats, if you can, if you are able. Security, please remove Kraylin from the premises." Students who had fled began creeping back in, peeking through the doorway like prey, checking if the predator was gone. Spoiler alert, the predator was still there. She just looked like a 5'6" human girl with a ponytail. Riley sat back down at her desk like nothing had happened, picked up her stylus, and went right back to doodling. Everyone stared at her. She didn't notice, or didn't care. Security dragged Kraylin out. He was walking, barely. His legs wobbled, and his face wore the expression of someone experiencing a full-scale existential crisis. Couldn't blame him. If someone had told me humans could do that, I would have laughed. Now I was having my own existential crisis. "Right," Professor Varenth said weakly. "Where were we? Wave function collapse and the observer effect. The probability of an outcome existing in multiple states until measured..." He trailed off. Although perhaps that metaphor is less theoretical than I assumed. Nobody laughed. No one was capable of laughter. We were all too busy remembering how breathing worked. Class limped to the finish line. I absorbed nothing. My notes from the last 20 minutes were just meaningless shapes and half lines. All 4 of my hands were still shaking. My minds, plural, were racing in every direction at once, trying to make sense of what I'd witnessed. When the session finally mercifully ended, I did something incredibly stupid. I approached Riley. "Hey," I said, my voice cracking. "Can I ask you something?" She looked up while packing her data pad. "Sure. What's up?" "What's up?" Like this was normal. Like she hadn't just shattered everyone's understanding of human limits. "That thing you did," I said, gesturing vaguely. "With the knife, and the speed, and all of it." I swallowed. "Is that normal for humans?" Riley tilted her head. "Define normal." "Can all humans do that?" I asked. "Disarm someone like that?" She shrugged. "Most of us. I mean, not everyone trains seriously, but self-defense is pretty common. Recommended even. Earth isn't exactly safe. So parents usually make sure their kids know how to handle themselves." "Kids," I repeated. "You said kids start learning this stuff around 6, I said. "Yeah," Riley replied. "Earlier, depending on where you grow up." She saw my expression, must have been pure, unfiltered horror, because she laughed. "Oh man, you should see your face right now. All 4 of your eyes are doing that wide frozen thing." 6-year-olds, I said slowly. 6-year-old humans can fight." "Well, fight? Not really. Not at 6, she clarified. "That's more basic stuff. Stranger danger, how to break a grab, where someone's trying to hurt you." She shrugged. "The fun stuff comes later." "Fun," I repeated. She thought about it. "Okay, maybe not fun. Necessary." She leaned back. "We learn it the same way you probably learned whatever you learned as a kid. Math, language, not getting eaten by local wildlife, standard education stuff." My legs finally gave up on me, and I sat down, completely uninvited, in the chair next to her. "You said you know what? 17 ways to disarm someone?" "At least 17, she said. "Probably more." "I stopped counting after 20, she added, grinning. "Different techniques work on different body types. What works on a Kralik won't work on a Vaxian. Adaptation is everything." "And the knife in your backpack," I said, remembering. "You actually have one." "Oh yeah, hold on." She dug into her bag and pulled out a small folding tool. Red casing, compact, multiple attachments. "Swiss Army knife," she said. "Blade, scissors, screwdriver, bottle opener, can opener, file, tweezers, toothpick. Basically a toolbox in your pocket." She flipped it open, revealing a blade about as long as my smallest finger. Tiny, almost laughably small. And yet she called it a knife, the same word she'd used for Kralen's ceremonial death blade. "That's a knife?" I asked. "Yep. I mean, it's a small one." She shrugged. "My brother has one that's about 7 inches long. Uses it for camping. My mom has a whole set in the kitchen. Different sizes for different jobs, chopping, slicing, dicing, filleting. You use the right tool for the right task." "Your mother has multiple knives," I said. "Well, yeah," Riley replied, genuinely confused. "How else would she cook?" She paused. "Wait, do Quilarians not use knives?" "We use cutting implements," I said carefully. "But they're regulated, registered. You don't just have them in your home." She processed that. "That sounds incredibly inconvenient," she said. "How do you cook? Do you have, like, communal cutting facilities or something?" "We have food preparation tools that aren't classified as weapons." "But knives aren't weapons," Riley said. "I mean, sure, they can be used as weapons. So can a rock, or a chair, or a fork, if you're creative. Anything's a weapon if you try hard enough." She folded the knife closed. A knife's just a tool, a really useful one. One of humanity's oldest inventions, actually. We've been making knives for like 2 million years. 2 million years. Humans had been making blades for 2 million years, and they gave them to children, and kept them in kitchens, and carried them in their pockets. What kind of death world produces a species that thinks like that? You look like you're having a moment, Riley said, tucking the knife away. Want me to explain the whole Earth thing? Might help with the processing. Yes, I said, because apparently I hated myself. Please, explain Earth to me. Okay, Riley said, leaning back. Earth is a Category 12 death world. You already know that. But I don't think you really understand what that means day to day. By now, a few other students had edged closer. Corin, clicking nervously. Lyria, humming low and steady. Even Drexus and 2 Drexians, pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. We have spiders, Riley said. Small ones mostly. 8 legs. Make webs. Some of them have venom that can kill you. Not fast, she added, but enough to ruin your week. They live in our houses, like inside them. We usually coexist. Sometimes we catch them and put them outside. Sometimes we leave them alone because they eat other bugs. Venomous creatures, Lyria whispered. In your homes. And you let them stay. Most spiders are harmless, Riley said. It's just a few you have to watch out for. Brown recluse, black widow, Sydney funnel web if you're in Australia. But most of the time, they're fine. Most of the time, I repeated. Then there are the plants, she continued. Poison ivy, poison oak, stinging nettles, oleander, castor beans, nightshade. Touch the wrong plant on a hike and you're covered in painful rashes for days. Eat the wrong berry and you're dead. So we teach kids which plants not to touch. Basic survival stuff. Corin's clicking picked up speed. Your plants are poisonous, he said. Not all of them, Riley replied. Just enough that you need to be careful. Oh, and weather, she added. Weather can kill you too. Tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, heat waves, floods, wildfires. Lightning kills about 50 people a year on Earth. Just random lightning. Wrong place, wrong time, boom. Electrocuted by the sky. The sky attacks you, Drexus said flatly. Sometimes, Riley agreed. Yeah. Also, we have bears, wolves, mountain lions, alligators, crocodiles, sharks, jellyfish that can stop your heart, and snakes. So many snakes. Venomous ones, constrictors, ones that can swallow you whole if you're small enough. And humans just live there? I asked. Surrounded by all of that? Casually? Riley grinned. Well, yeah. Where else would we live? It's our planet. We adapted. That's basically our whole deal as a species. We adapt. We endure. We dig in our heels and refuse to go away. We aren't the fastest creatures out there. We're not the strongest either. We're definitely not the most venomous thing walking around. But when it comes to persistence, nobody beats us. We don't quit. Ever. You can knock us flat and we'll claw our way back up. Hurt us, and we heal. Try to wipe us out, and instead of dying quietly, we get angry. And then we start figuring out how to take you down first. She said all of this without drama. No fire in her voice, no pride, just calm, factual statements, like she was explaining cloud formations or wind patterns. I'd heard plenty of disturbing survival philosophies before, but this one stuck with me. Humans hunted animals to extinction, Riley went on. Not out of cruelty, not because we meant to, but because we were so effective at hunting that once we started, we didn't know how to stop. We would chase prey until their bodies simply gave out. No tricks, no ambush, just relentless pursuit, persistence hunting. We'd follow something for hours, sometimes days. We wouldn't rush. We wouldn't give up. We'd just keep going until the animal was too exhausted to keep running. Then we'd kill it, eat it, use every part of it. Nothing wasted. That's horrifying, Prilia said softly. That's efficient, Riley corrected without missing a beat. And it gets worse, or better. Depends how you look at it. Human endurance, she explained, is ridiculous compared to most species. We run marathons, 26 miles, 42 kilometers, for fun. People voluntarily do this, on weekends. And then there are ultra-marathons, 50 miles, 100 miles. Apparently 26 just wasn't hard enough for some of us. Why? Jax Morm asked. It wasn't really a question. It sounded more like a plea, like he needed this to make sense. Riley just shrugged. Because we can. Because it's there. Humans like challenges. We like pushing until something pushes back. She brought up Mount Everest, tallest mountain on Earth, a place so hostile it literally kills people. There's an area near the top called the Death Zone. It's named that way because if you stay there too long, you die. Simple as that. Thin air, brutal cold, avalanches, hidden crevasses. And still, thousands of humans have climbed it anyway, because it's there, because they wanted to. That was when it finally clicked for me why humans had such a reputation across the galaxy. They weren't just survivors, they were thrivers. They walked into hostile environments, took one look around, and decided to make themselves at home. They stared at things designed to kill them and said, "Challenge accepted." So the knife thing, I said slowly, trying to keep up, that's just normal for you? Because compared to everything else on her planet, a knife barely registered as a threat. Riley smiled. Pretty much. A knife is predictable, she said. You can see it, control it. It's honest. It doesn't have venom. It doesn't stalk you. It doesn't drop out of the sky or tear you apart in the dark. It's just a blade. Simple. Clean. Manageable. She had described disarming an armed Krallic warrior as easy, and the truly unsettling part was this. She probably wasn't exaggerating. She wasn't showing off. For her, and for humans in general, it really was that simple. 3 days passed before I saw Leo Stanton again. Physically, he looked mostly the same, though he moved a little stiff, probably still feeling the aftermath of being slammed into the floor. But that wasn't the real change. The swagger was gone. The constant snarl had softened into something closer to caution. And when Riley passed him in the corridor, he pressed himself against the wall and deliberately avoided eye contact. Submission behavior. From a Krallic warrior. Toward a human who barely reached his shoulder. The story had spread. Obviously. Station gossip traveled faster than light. By day 2, every student in the academy knew what had happened. By day 3, everyone knew someone who had witnessed it firsthand. And with every retelling, the story grew more ridiculous. Some versions claimed Riley moved so fast she became invisible. Others insisted she had psychic abilities. One especially creative rumor suggested Leo Stanton had actually died, and the individual walking around now was a cloned replacement. None of those versions were as frightening as the truth. She hadn't used powers. She hadn't used tricks. She'd just been fast, well-trained, and completely casual about the whole thing. The human population at the academy was small, maybe 30 students out of 2,000. Before the incident, they blended in. Normal, approachable, forgettable. Afterward, they got space. A lot of space. Students crossed hallways to avoid brushing past them, not out of fear, exactly, but respect. The kind you give something that could destroy you and chooses not to. I watched it happen in real time. Prelix, the Lyrian who'd fled the classroom, now nodded nervously whenever he passed a human. The Drexian group that used to block entire walkways quietly stepped aside. Even Professor Varanth, in our next lecture, asked Riley if she was comfortable where she was sitting. Asked her. Like she was visiting royalty instead of a student who doodled through half his lessons. Riley, meanwhile, seemed totally unaware of the shift. She still showed up with her data pad and that little toolbox knife. still filled her margins with sketches, still asked questions, not to challenge authority, but out of genuine curiosity. She still smiled that human smile we now understood wasn't a threat display, though somehow it felt more dangerous now that we knew better. I caught myself watching her more than I should have. Not out of fear. Not really. More like morbid fascination. When she stretched in her chair, I noticed how her muscles moved. Efficient. Controlled. When she reached for her bag, I tracked the speed of the motion. Fast. Faster than it had any right to be. When she laughed at something on her datapad, I noticed her teeth. Mostly flat. Except for 4 that were just a little sharper. Omnivore teeth. Built for prey and for predators. Deathworlder teeth. "You're staring again," she said one day after class, and it caught me completely off guard. "Sorry," I blurted automatically. "I was just thinking about how humans are terrifying apex predators who could probably snap you in half." She grinned, joking, or at least half-joking. Except, it wasn't really a joke. I had to admit, yeah, she probably could snap me in half. Something like that. "Yeah, you're not the first person to figure that out this week," she said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "For what it's worth, we're actually not that scary." "We just seem scary," she continued, "because your frame of reference is different. On Earth, I'm completely average, probably below average in some areas. I can't even run a 6-minute mile," she added, as if it were embarrassing. A 6-minute mile. My top speed was maybe half that, and I'd probably need medical attention afterward. "Riley," I said carefully, "I don't think the problem is that we think you're scary. The problem is that you don't think you're scary." She paused, considered it, then shrugged. "Huh. Fair point." "Want to grab lunch?" she asked. "The cafeteria's serving something that's supposed to be noodles. I'm like 60% sure it won't kill me." Only 60%. And she was going to eat it anyway. Of course she was. I followed her to the cafeteria, keeping a respectful distance. Not entirely out of fear. Well, okay. Maybe a little. But mostly because I'd learned something important over the past few days. Something every species in the galaxy should probably know. Something that ought to be printed in giant letters on every human information packet at every spaceport. Humans are not malicious. They're not cruel. They're not looking for fights. They're actually pretty pleasant once you get to know them. They'll share their food, help you with your homework, make jokes, laugh, be genuinely kind. But they're from Earth. Category 12. Deathworld. A place where everything wants to kill you, and you learn fast how to kill back. A place where they hand knives to children and teach 17 ways to disarm an attacker before puberty. Where they run for fun, climb mountains that will kill them, walk past venomous spiders and shrug, "Sure, you can live in my house. They're nice, right up until they're not. And when they're not, it happens so fast you won't even see it coming. So here's my advice, free of charge, learned the hard way through observation and mild trauma. If you ever find yourself in a room with a human, be polite, be respectful, be kind. And for the love of everything sacred in the void of space, do not, under any circumstances, no matter how tough you think you are, no matter how much honor demands it, do not ever pull a knife on them. Because they will smile. They will take it away from you. And they will do it so casually, so effortlessly, so completely without concern, that you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what else they're capable of. And trust me, you don't want to know. Some questions are better left unanswered. Some mysteries are better left unexplored. Some species are better left unthreatened. Humans are one of them. Humanity isn't dangerous because it seeks conflict. Humanity is dangerous because it has learned to survive anything that comes for it.